Hey everybody, it's Tim with Collect Jurassic, and I'm back with another toy review for the Mattel Jurassic World Primal Attack Massive Biters. Of course, a lot of new toys have been coming out. We also have the Sound Strikes along with the Massive Biters that just came out. But I'm going to split this review up into two parts, and we'll focus on the Massive Biters today. So this is just part one, so come back for part two where we go over the Sound Strikes. But yes, for this review, we're only going to be focusing on the Massive Biters here, which is the Sarcosuchus and Tarbosaurus. Sorry about that. You know me, I'm always getting these these species names wrong. But I'll try my best to not mispronounce anything else if I can, but no promises. So yeah, here they are, Sarcosuchus and Tarbosaurus, massive biters, awesome figures, looking great in the packaging. We'll go ahead and start with Sarcosuchus itself. I think that'll be the first one we bust open today. So this is actually not a dinosaur, right? This is a reptile, not an aquatic reptile, I guess, but a crocodile. And Sarcosuchus, I think, means flesh crocodile, which is pretty cool. Kind of a creepy but ominous name. But here it is in the package, and it looks cool already. It's kind of funny that it's flat up against it. You don't really get the best view. You kind of have to turn the figure on its side to kind of get a view of its head. But you get an idea of how kind of beefy this figure is just looking at it in the package. And of course, like all Primal Attack figures that are coming out this year, it has this beautiful background back here. We've talked about it in literally every Primal Attack review. Let's talk about it one more time. This great looking fence and this sunset out back here just gives some really cool, moody sunset vibes to all the toys, and it looks great on this packaging too. We also have little Primal Attack logos, as well as on the side, kind of showing off the signature action feature that this toy has, which you can kind of see there, but I'll really go into it when I open up the toy itself. Elsewhere on the package, we have the back, of course, which has that kind of blue digital screen kind of feel where they show how the figure works, as well as the other figures in the assortment, which in this case is just the Tarbosaurus. But yeah, they always just kind of show how the figure works back there. Nothing new to see, but I always like to show that off. But yeah, this is the figure in the box, and this is going to be the figure out of the box, because that is really how we can get a better look at this guy. So just let me get my, it looks like it's going to be a really easy figure to unbox, actually. So this won't take very long. I know some of these are painfully long, but this will not be one of them. So let's go ahead and put the packaging aside. There's probably some instructions here, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm pretty sure I can work this figure without instructions. So get it all set up here. That is Tarbosaurus, or sorry, that is Sarcosuchus, blah, the flesh crocodile out of the package. And wow, this thing is still very beefy, very long actually. Even though the tail even has a little bit of curl to it, it's a very long figure. The first thing I noticed is, let's talk about the sculpt first. The first thing I've kind of noticed with this figure now that it's out of the box is the sculpt. You can see here that the tail is like very, very, very thick. The body's thick. Everything about this thing is just kind of like bulky and muscular, which is really, really cool. And the detail on the sculpt is just instantly eye-catching, especially on the legs, where you can see the individual scales that look really nice. And the body has those scales too, but it really pops on the legs. The back has all of these ridges, all of these spikes that really make it look, like a modern day crocodile, even though it's prehistoric. Again, that tail just kind of has that like fat, bulbous look that you kind of associate with like big crocodiles or big alligators. So that's really cool. The tail kind of tapers off here with all of these ridges kind of getting smaller and smaller, but they're all sculpted out, which looks really cool. The head itself, it's a little bit stylized. I wouldn't say cartoony, or maybe I would, but it's very, it's definitely got kind of a illustrated look to it, but I think it still looks pretty cool. The eyes, of course, are that yellow with the black on them, which I think is what really kind of gives this thing a little bit more of a stylized look, but that's okay. The teeth themselves are all individually sculpted. Then you have this kind of big nostril area that I think is signature to this species. I'm noticing that I can kind of get the mouth to stay closed too. I don't know if that's going to be the case with every figure, but It looks like the teeth kind of interlock in such a way that it almost barely holds shut. But yeah, that about does it for the sculpt itself. It's really nice though. All the fingers, all the nails right there. Just a lot of detail with that scaling that they did all through the bottom of the mouth too. Looks like there's a big giant tongue in the mouth, sculpted as well. Paint scheme wise, I mean, this thing's pretty simple, but I think that's kind of what makes it sort of brilliant, is how simple the color scheme, but how effective it is. We have the light tone that's kind of the sculpted plastic that's painted on with a darker tone throughout the body, the tail, the head. It's all has that kind of two-tone to it. And then the paint on the teeth is what I'm actually really impressed with, is that it's individually painted. So every single tooth has been painted the tooth color, instead of like a strip of paint or something a little more sloppy. And it's actually applied on the figure pretty well. It's not kind of dripping down into the jaw or on the tongue or anything. So that's a nice touch. The tongue itself is painted, and it's painted with a gloss paint too, so it looks, you know, a little moist. Kind of hard to see on camera here in this room, but it's got a little bit of a moisture look to it. And of course, we talked about the eyes and the eye paint there. But yeah, there's really not a lot of paint colors going on this figure, but I think it kind of helps it. It just kind of helps keeping things simple, I guess. I don't think this figure needs to have these wild, crazy colors. Not to say I wouldn't want to repaint this. That did kind of go for it, but for this first one, I'm really lets the sculpt sing, and it's, you know, I think it complements a water-bound crocodile very well to kind of have this muddyish, greenish look. So that about does it for the paint. But the action features, what I really love to talk about on these new figures, that being the Primal Attack. This one doesn't have sound. These two massive biters don't have sounds, but they do have that feature. And in this case, it's the tail that you can move back and forth. That kind of swings the head around. I'm going to kind of hold awkwardly to show you. So you can kind of move the head around. You can't really move it up and down, but you can move it side to side. And then the button on the tail actually does the chomping motion. And then you can swivel the tail like this to kind of move the head around too. So you can grab somebody and move them around, thrash them around, break their limbs before it chomps them and eats them up. So yeah, it's just like all the other Primal Attack. It's very smooth on this massive biter, very, very smooth. There's like no resistance. Yeah, you can really kind of get a little bit of motion with it. You know, move everything around left and right, and rotate it. And that bite works really well too. You know, can't help but comment on how much fun kids will have with this. I'm going to go ahead and get a human figure in here so you can see how huge this thing is, but also to illustrate that awesome biting. I mean, kids are just going to have a blast with this just because of what you can do with it. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I love that. So yeah, really fun play feature with this bite. I mean, come on, that's so cool. So not that we adult collectors spend a lot of time playing with our toys necessarily, but I think they did a really nice job using that play feature to be kind of something that's fun to, you know, play around with, just to kind of illustrate how it works. I guess I should talk about the articulation on the feet and I guess all the feet. It doesn't really have arms per se, but it's got the front legs have rotation and swivel. You can see there. The back legs are sort of like on a ball socket, and they don't, no, they move a little bit. Yeah, so they move like back and forth, and they have a little bit of a ball joint on them, so you can kind of splay them out or keep them close to the body. So you can actually make this thing fully lay down too, you know, kind of maybe in a tranquilized state. One thing we all love about Mattel Jurassic is the articulation that they have. Even though it's basic, it's definitely welcome, and it lets you put them in, you know, a conservative amount of poses, but it still is, you know, the figure's not static, and these nice neutral poses are nice, but then you can kind of do some subtle articulation to give the thing some cool poses. So that's the articulation for this one. But yeah, standout is this bite feature. and just the sculpt itself. I think that's what really helps this figure stand out to me as one of the cooler figures coming out for 2020. Obviously, it's not a dinosaur, so the novelty of it being a crocodile is really cool too. But yeah, this is great. I love it. The stylized look of it is probably the only kind of negative I have about it, but I can get over it. I mean, these are toys, so I'm not going to let that ruin the whole package for me. So Sarcosuchus, very, very, very cool toy. But let's get to the Tarbosaurus. Personally, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. It was one of the first Primal Attack figures we got sort of an unofficial look at. And now that it's in my hands, it's better than ever. So I cannot wait to open this one. Let's look at it in the package, of course. So this really pops against the package. Again, this is one of the first figures we got a view of, and I think it was a great one to get the first view of because the figure really pops against this background. Again, we got the beautiful sunset and fences back there that just look great, but the figure itself really fills up the package and contrasts great against that background. Again, we have the Primal Attack logos, you know, sort of advertising this Primal Attack feature, and then on the back, again, we have an illustration of how this figure works, which is the Primal Attack action, which I cannot wait to do. So we're going to open this figure up as soon as I can shut up and stop talking about it in the box. But very, very cool what's going on back here, and I can't wait to do it myself. So yeah, I can't wait anymore. I need to open this figure up right now and check it out. So again, this one might be a little bit more involved of a unboxing. But hey, at least we don't have to open up any collector cards. That was tough stuff to do with the Dino Rivals on camera. If you watch my reviews for Dino Rivals, I always struggle to do that, and I eventually started doing it off camera because it was just too painful. So looks like this figure has these foot things you have to pop out. Always a little iffy to do. Oh, they came right out. And I just have one more piece of plastic line to cut. Thank you for being patient. And that is out of the box. It looks like there is no instructions with these figures, so not that they're required, but all right, let me get the feet fixed. A lot of these figures have their feet kind of pigeon-toed so that they stay in the box better. All right, and there it is, the Tarbosaurus. Awesome carnivore. You know, it's kind of like a little bit like a T-Rex with its two claws, but it definitely has a little bit different proportions and some different details than the T-Rex, which I really, really, really like about this figure. And so let's jump right into the sculpt. Again, the first thing you notice about this figure is those ridges on the back. They're very pronounced. I mean, certainly you see T-Rexes from toys and movies and other stuff where they do have those ridges, but I think in this figure it's kind of you know, signature to it. Maybe it's not signature to the species, but it certainly gives this figure a you know, a very recognizable look. You know, detail wise, we do have a lot of like ripples in the skin, a lot of lines, not like the scales of the Sarcosuchus necessarily, but the detail is definitely there. You know, and the neck too, there's like some wrinkles too. So looks like there's a big giant wrinkle on the abdomen too, which I definitely think is you know, just those sorts of details make these Mattel Jurassic toys a little bit more special than your average dinosaur figure, in my opinion. Down to the feet, we have these big thick pads on the feet that look really good. You know, the toes are not painted, which I'll get to the paint later, but I know a lot of people have an issue with that, but it's never something that bothers me too much. But they're nice and smooth claws, even though they're not painted. The head looks great. I mean, the detail on it is very crisp around the eyes. That's where you can really tell this isn't a T-Rex, because the way the skull is shaped, the way the ridges of the eyes definitely give it sort of a different construction of the head than the Jurassic T-Rex, kind of a shorter neck too. So yeah, that about covers the sculpt. Again, it's got a lot of detail. The way the plastic and the paint kind of work together, there's definitely lots of ridges and wrinkles and folds that make this feel like a living dinosaur, as much as a toy can anyway. And again, that crisp detail in the face looks Really, really nice. But let's talk about the paint. One of the things, my favorite things about this figure is this like red throat. It's very avian-like, almost like a chicken. The bottom jaw is actually molded plastic in red, and then they've kind of painted and splashed it on the bottom of the neck as well as the chest. And it kind of gives this a real world animal vibe again. Like, again, it's something that you'd see in nature with birds or something. So I like that nice little touch there. The teeth look great on the head. They're painted flawlessly. They're not individual like Sarcosuchus, but they're definitely some of the more accurately painted teeth I've seen from Mattel. There's not like stuff rubbing off or splashing. Again, we have that tongue that's painted glossy like the Sarcosuchus. That looks really nice. Kind of helps it look like a wet tongue. The eyes, we have these red eyes to kind of complement the throat with the black irises. But the body, I think it's, again, like the Sarcosuchus, the simplicity here of this molded gray plastic with a darker color on top with the ridges and the stripes. It's simple, but I think it's effective. And this one has a little bit more contrast than Sarcosuchus, but it works. I don't think it's too wild and vibrant and out there. You have that with the throat color itself. But the base body, you know, it functions for what it is, and it looks really nice. So I do like the paint job on this, probably more than the Sarcosuchus, and it probably has to do with that red throat. I think that's just kind of a really cool touch. But let's play with this action feature. That's what I want to play with. So you have the tail again. I'm sorry, this is kind of awkward to do, but you can obviously move the dinosaur up and down, and then you can move the head back and forth. I think that's pretty much all you can do. It doesn't really move back and forth, does it? No, it doesn't move back and forth. So it's kind of a left and right thing only. And then, of course, the button allows you to chomp the teeth too, which the Sarcosuchus, or sorry, the Tarbosaurus has. I love its silhouette when the mouth is closed. But yeah, just like the Carnotaurus, just really natural movements you can do with the Primal Attack feature. That I think it makes these new toys with their action features a little bit more unique than previous releases that are just kind of gimmicky action features. This feels a little bit more smooth and natural. Lets you do some real natural movements. But yeah, this one's a little more simple than the Sarcosuchus, I gotta say. It's just, you know, back and forth rotation. Doesn't look like it does anything else but chomp and move around like that. So not as much fun, I'd say, as the Sarcosuchus, but still lets you do those very natural movements. So articulation wise, I've talked about how it looks like the jaw spring loaded, the legs similar to the Control and Conquer Carnotaurus look to be like they're on the same pivot, so you can kind of allow you to do this. So you can't put like one leg forward and one leg back. At least I'm not going to try to do it with my figure, which is kind of a bummer. You can't make him like in a running pose necessarily, but it's because of that play feature, so a little restrictive there. The arms have that kind of rotated and hinged joint that allow you to do some other kind of fun stuff like that. Put his arms up in sort of a not very threatening attack pose, but the articulation is there, and then everything else is kind of tied to the action feature. The feet you can kind of pigeonhole out into like they were in the box itself. But yeah, that's the Tarbosaurus, and man, do I love this figure. I think the only thing that I have personally against it is that I can't move the legs independently of one another, but that's okay because it looks great, static, even without kind of making it into a running pose. And yeah, I love this. This is a great new carnivore to have. The paint color, the paint scheme is very effective, and yeah, I'm just excited to get kind of a new species and one we haven't had a toy of in the Jurassic universe. Both of these, actually, you know, Sarcosuchus and Tarbosaurus are both sort of all new figures to the Jurassic universe, and of course the toys themselves. And I think what Mattel did here was great. Obviously, with previous Mattel releases, we have Stegosaurus and Suchomimus, Carnotaurus in this sort of range, but they went and broke the mold and did something all new with the crocodile. The Sarcosuchus and the Tarbosaurus is a little bit more safer, a little bit more of a safer carnivore, but I think what they did with the ridges on the back and the red color is very, very cool. And of course, both of these figures are featuring that really fun Primal Attack action that is just so much fun, especially with the Sarcosuchus. I really like it on him more than I like on the Tarbosaurus, but overall, I love these figures and I am so happy to have them. Mattel did a great job. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for this review. I've kind of already gone on longer than I like to, which is why I split this review in half. So come back for the part 2 review where we go over the sound strikes. But this was the Massive Biters. Thank you for joining me. Again, I'll be back with another review. But until then, I am Tim with Collect Jurassic, and thank you for watching.